Good day. Today we'll be looking at active and passive sentences. I'm sure this is not kind of new to some of us. We've learned about active and passive sentences at one time or the other, or we've even had ourselves involved in one thing or the other. We've used it in our various sentences, whether consciously or unconsciously. That is whether known or unknown. So today we're looking at active and passive sentences. We have two important words there, right? We have the word active and we have the word passive. We know what sentences are. We use it every day. So these just the two things, two keywords, active and passive. So today we'll be looking at active and passive sentences. Before we go fully into this topic, there are two important keywords that we really need to know about, that we really need to understand before we can have full grasp of what active and passive sentences are. So the two important terms that we need to look at is subject and object in English language. Sure, I know you know subject. When we talk about subject, we're not talking about your mathematics, basic science. No, we're talking about subject in English language and objects in English grammar. So what is subject? What is object? When we have a full understanding of what subject and objects are, then we'll be able to understand what active and passive sentences are. So what are subjects rather? What is a subject? So the subject of a sentence refers to the performer of an action in a sentence. Performer of an action. That is, it refers to the person doing something. The person performing an action. So the subject of a sentence refers to the person performing an action in a sentence. In other words, some people call them the doer of an action. So we could also say that the subject refers to the doer of an action. Refers to the person doing something. And many people believe that the subject refers to the most important part of a sentence because it's talking about the person that is doing something. Let's take an example. Here we have a sentence: Sade kicked the ball. Now, how do we get to know the subject? Remember, I said the subject refers to the person performing an action, the person doing something. First of all, what is the action being performed? This is kicked. The action being performed, we call it the verb. Now, what is the subject? The person doing something. Who is kicking the ball? Sade. So you have subject. So the subject tells you the person that is performing the action, the person that is doing something. Who is kicking? Sade. So the subject basically tells us the person or the thing that is performing an action. Let's take other examples. Let's call this example 1. Other examples. The children ate the rice. What's the action that is being performed there? Eating. So ate is the verb. Right? Who ate the rice? The children. Therefore, the children is the subject. Who is doing something? Who is performing the action? That is what we refer to as subjects. Can we take other examples? Yes. Let's take another example. The senior prefect punished the pupils. What action is being performed? The action of punishing. So punishing is the verb, right? Who is punishing? Who is doing something? The senior prefect. So say the senior prefect is the what? The subject. So the senior prefect is the subject. Can we take one more example? Let's do that. Yes, what action is being performed here? What are they doing? Calling. So calling is the verb. Who is performing the action? Who is calling? Daddy. So daddy is the subject. Wow, this sounds kind of interesting. I really want to take one more example. Let's take one more example. Kayode and I will be washing the plates today. What action is being performed or will be performed? The action of washing. So we'll say, oh, will be washing. Will be the verb. who will be washing the plates? Kayode and I. So Kayode and I is the subject. So you would note that the subject could be long, it could be short, it could be very short, it could be very long. Kayode and I, plural, two persons. It could be just one person, the child. It could be two persons, the children, or more. So the subject is not limited to just boy, girl. It could be the boy, the girl, my friends. Let's take one example again. What action is being performed? That's the action of loving something. So we say love is the verb. Who are those that are loving something? The babies. Now, I did not say babies. So you take it, the babies. You take it from what is qualifying these babies, the babies. So we have the babies as the subject. I hope you understand this. So that's all about the subject. We say subject refers to what? The person performing the action, the person that is doing something. That is what the subject is. So now, straight up, we're moving to the next thing. We're moving to objects. Yeah. So the object, on the other hand, refers to the person receiving the action that is being performed. So people call it the recipient. The person on the other end. Ayo slapped the boy. Who is performing the action? Ayo. Ayo is slapping. Now, who is receiving the action? That is what we call the object. So object refers to the person receiving the action. It is the person or thing that is affected by the action being performed. Like the example I gave earlier. Ayo slapped the boy. We know what action is being performed. We know it's slapped, right? So we say slapped is the verb. Who is doing it? Who is performing the action? Ayo. So Ayo is the subject. Now, who is receiving that action of slapping? Who is being slapped? That's the best question. Who is being slapped? Says the boy. So the boy is the object. He's the one that is receiving the action. Ayo is doing the action, is performing it, right? Is performing the action. Who is now receiving it? The boy. So the boy is the object. Somebody is doing something. Ayo, right? Is doing something. What's Ayo doing? Is slapping. Who is Ayo slapping? The boy. So the person on the other end, or the thing on the other end, is referred to as the object. So object refers to the person that receives the action, the person that is affected by the action, and it could be positive or negative. Let's see another example. The children ate the chicken. What action is being performed? We say ate is the verb, right? Who is eating something? The children. We say it's what? Yeah, you got it right. The subject. What are the children eating? Who is receiving the action of eating? What is that thing? Say, oh, the chicken. So the chicken is the object. I hope you understand. Let's take other examples. Call this example 1. Call this example 2. Example 3. The principal flogged them. The principal flogged them. Now, what action is being performed? Yes, flogging is the action being performed. That makes flogging what? The flogged what? The verb. Good. Now, who is doing the flogging? The principal. That makes the principal what? The subject, right? Now, who is the principal flogging? Who is receiving the action? Who is receiving that flog? Them. So that makes it what? The object. Can we take 2 more examples? Yeah, let's do that. What action is being performed? The action of doing. So we have this as the verb. Who are those doing something? The boys. So we have it as the subject. What are they doing? They are doing the job. Call it the object. The last My mother visited the village. My mother visited the village. What action is being performed? The action of visiting. So we'll call this what? The verb. Who is visiting somewhere? My mother. We call it what? The subject. And where is she visiting? Who is receiving a visit? The village. So we call the village object. So basically, the subject refers to the person performing the action, while the object refers to the receiver of the action. So having understood what object and subject is, then we can come back to active and passive sentences. For the sake of this video, we'll just quickly look at active sentences, while next video we'll be talking about passive sentences. Active sentence. What then is an active sentence? An active sentence is the type of sentence in which the subject comes before the verb and the object. That means an active sentence is the sentence in which the subject comes first before the verb and the object. So all the sentences we've been having in this video are all active sentences. Why? Because they have their subject first before the verb. So an active sentence is basically a sentence in which the subject comes first before the verb and the object, like the examples we've been having. Let's just take 4 examples. Number 1, the girls love reading novels. What's the verb? Love, right? What's the subject? The girls. So the subject here is coming before what? The verb. So we call it what? An active sentence. Let's take another example. Number 2, the teacher explains the topic. What's the verb? Explain. That's the action being performed. That's the verb. What's the subject? Who is explaining something? The teacher. What's the teacher explaining? The topic. Object. Now we said an active sentence is the sentence in which the subject comes first before the verb and the object. So a passive sentence is a sentence where you have the subject at the first position before the verb and the object. Other examples. What's the verb? But. Who is buying something? My daddy. So this is subject, right? And this is verb. So because the subject is coming before the verb, this is also what? An active sentence. Let's take another example. Number 4. Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Salami watched the drama with joy. What action is being performed? Watching. Watching, they are watching something. Who and who are doing that? Mr. Johnson and Salami. So they are the subject. So because the subject is coming before the verb, we call this an active sentence. What other examples of active sentences do you have? You could write that out in your notes or in a paper. Let's see if you understand what we did. So basically, an active sentence is a sentence in which the subject comes before the verb and the object. And truly, many of the sentences we make in our day-to-day conversation are active sentences. What then is a passive sentence? We'll be talking about this in the next video. Bye.